What's up, lore masters? Today's ship is one of those that can be a bit contentious on whether it is a prime timeline ship or not. For me, the Kelvin type is a prime timeline ship. My main belief for this is due to the fact that it existed before the arrival of the Narada. However, there have been some compelling arguments that the Narada's arrival impacted the timeline going in both directions, both the past and the future, creating a universe where the entire history of Starfleet was changed. I don't see any alpha canon evidence that supports this, nor anything on screen to suggest that the history was changed in both directions. It's possible it was, though. I mean, I'm not completely convinced one way or the other, and I'm not as invested in this as people would like. So, feel free to believe what you want. With that out of the way, let's just get into it. The first thing to know about this ship is that we don't really know its class. Most refer to it as the Kelvin type based on the USS Kelvin, but the actual class name has never been revealed. The Kelvin type ship is one of the most inorganic designs I've ever seen. It is comprised of a primary hull, that's the saucer section, one ventral warp nacelle, and a rounded secondary hull at the top that would look like another warp nacelle. It is also apparently really important to Memory Alpha and other sources to know that the saucer section has a dome on the top of it, which is honestly common for most ships of that era and Starfleet in general. It also has a spine running across the top of the saucer section. The ship does have a crew of at least 800 people and at least 13 decks. The bridge, located on Deck 1 in the dome, has a single command chair located in the middle of the bridge on a slightly raised platform. This would allow the captain to have a 360-degree view of the bridge and look at all the consoles or officers. Like most Starfleet designs, the command chair also has a panel integrated into the right armrest that allows for the control of most ship functions. Directly in front of the command chair, multiple stations are located that generally control helm, navigation, and other vital ship functions. There are also consoles that are located on the bulkheads surrounding the sides and back of the bridge. Additionally, a console to the left of the command chair would be where the executive officer is typically stationed. Doors leading out of the bridge, presumably to turbo lifts, are located to the aft of the bridge itself. There are a few things about this ship that bother some, but don't really impact me, and this is generally due to the era of the ship itself. One of them is the inclusion of the window that is located at the front of the bridge. While many resources, including the wiki apparently sent to us from God and can't be wrong known as Memory Alpha, refer to it as a view screen, it's really not. It's a window with different displays. This doesn't actually bother me though, the fact that it has a window. It honestly makes sense that Starfleet experimented with different styles. There are advantages to a window over that of a view screen. So the fact that a vessel during the early era of the Federation is testing this out makes sense. I think the window is a failed experiment, but that's a debate for another time. Engineering is, perhaps, the best evidence for the timeline being impacted in both directions. We don't see much of engineering, but what we do see looks to be more industrial, similar to what is seen in the JJ-verse Enterprise engineering room. However, it's important to note we don't see the warp core, so it's possible the warp core is similar to what is seen in other prime timeline vessels. And again, it's not unreasonable to think that perhaps Starfleet was experimenting with different kinds of warp cores, that this would be a failed warp core in the prime timeline, but was chosen after the events of the Narada in the JJ-verse. But to get back to the actual breakdown, we see only glimpses of engineering, as I've stated, showing a more industrialized look versus that of the sterilized version in other designs. Engineering also appears to be massive, with catwalks running across it at various levels of the room itself, which is not a great idea when you could possibly be attacked by enemy ships. The sickbay was well lit and had at least one biobed with monitors, and that's all we can confirm about sickbay. The shuttle bay is not actually a shuttle bay, but a long tube exposed to the elements, cause that just makes all the sense in the world. Shuttles are arranged internally along the sides of the tube, which are accessed from other decks. There are also rooms in the decks along the sides allowing for storage from the shuttle bay itself. The crew of the ship would enter into the shuttle from one of the decks and then launch into the tube and exit the ship from one way. Even though the tube is only one way as I stated, green lights would line the bottom of the shuttle bay, allowing for the pilot to be guided out. Think a very inefficient Viper launch tube. Corridors and turbolifts would be similar to what is seen on Crossfield and ultimately Constitution-class ships, with some variants such as lit bulkheads, consoles, and handrails. The tactical systems of the Kelvin type included turret-mounted phaser banks and photon torpedo launchers. Now, both these turrets and launchers would be located on both the dorsal and ventral surface of the saucer section. The phaser bank turrets would be stored in the ship below hatches, and some might call these ports, that weren't opened unless they needed to be used. The Kelvin is an interesting vessel, though it seems entirely impractical as a ship. For me, the Kelvin shows how you can update visuals of an existing property and not change everything. But beyond that, it doesn't add much to the universe. We would not see wide use of the Kelvin type ship in canon, and for probable good reason. Again, the ship seemed highly impractical against future models, such as the Constitution or even the Crossfield, as I've stated. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.